All right, so training in the gym, it's supposed to be challenging. So over time, it should get harder and harder and harder. And also sometimes you're just gonna have those days where things suck. I mean, just having real trouble pushing through the session. However, these are mostly exceptions, and this is not what we're going to be discussing today. The topic of today's video, it's actually when you hit a legit plateau where despite your best efforts, so you've been trying really hard for more than a week and you're stuck there, you hit a plateau, or maybe your performance starts to decline. These are the situations that I'm going to be talking about today and the solutions to those specific situations. Depending on the exact nature of the problem, there's going to be different solutions. My name is Nikki, and even though most of the times it's the other way around where people are not pushing themselves too hard and they're being too easy on themselves and they're not taking training seriously. Sometimes there are those exceptions where people push a little bit too hard, more than they can handle. And this is the first problem. It's a problem if you lack experience, and especially if you're basing your training program on what you're seeing the pros or the people with a lot of experience doing. Because if you're more of a beginner or an intermediate and you're trying to do what someone who's advanced is doing, well, it works for them because they're advanced, but it may be too much for you. And that's a big problem there. So to give you an example of a typical training split, normally, excluding the very advanced people, genetically gifted, and so on, we're looking at 3 to maybe 5 days a week training, each session lasting on average about 45 minutes to a little bit over an hour. And this is hard sets. This doesn't include your warm-up, stretching, cardio, and everything else you do in the gym that is not training with weights. And normally that's going to be about 4 to maybe 6 exercises per session. So unless you're very advanced or very strong with a lot of training experience, doing something like more than an hour and a half, spending more than an hour and a half in the gym, like training very hard, training 5 or 6 times, twice a day training, or you're doing 7+ exercises per session, chances are you're just doing way too much more than you can handle. And that's the first problem. And the solution here is pretty straightforward. Tone it down, do less. Yeah, sure, you can survive this kind of a brutal type of workout for maybe a couple of weeks, maybe a month, but over time, you're just gonna run yourself to the ground and you will get overwhelmed. So it's normal to hit a plateau very, very fast. So that's the first issue, just doing too much more than your current level suggests that you can handle. On to the second problem. Let's say you did a pretty good job balancing your workout, the workout volume that you're doing. It's all going good. It's been going good for some time, but something else in your life changed. So let's say you have a second job, or maybe you switch job to something that is more physically demanding. So your stress started to increase. By the way, when I say stress, I mean both physiological, and also mental, psychological. So it could be literally just going out, let's say it's winter, you're going out to chop some wood every day and just bring it back home. So obviously, if you've been involved in some kind of manual labor, once you go to the gym, this is going to affect your performance. So the more you do outside of the gym, the more manual labor you do, physical stuff you do, the more challenging the workouts are going to get. That is normal, even though your workouts haven't changed. It could also be mental stress. Let's say you got in a fight, your new job or whatever you're doing, you're working late. It's adding to some additional stress. This will affect your performance in the gym. So the solution here is going to be sort of different, although you have 2 choices depending on the exact nature of the situation. So ideally, you try and fix the problem. So if you're having some fights with a family member, just try to settle the issue in some way. But sometimes it's not an option, especially if, let's say, for some reason you have to work extra hard, you have exams coming in, something else that occupies your mind and saps your willpower and your motivation to train, then not always we can deal with those situations, or at least not instantly. So in those situations, you still have to balance down the stress, and if one thing goes up, something else has to go down. So if non-gym related stress is going up, then gym related stress has to go down, meaning that you reduce your training, you take it easy, you do less sets, maybe less sets, you don't train as frequently, maybe you reduce the weights a little bit, or something else, just basically taking it easy in the gym, similar to the very first problem that we had. So these are the two first problems. And there's another issue that comes up for people who are already doing a very good job and nothing in their life changed. So everything is stable. You did a good job selecting a good workout program, working with a talented coach who knows what he's doing, and at the same time, nothing in your life is changing. So outside of the gym. So everything remains consistent. But over time, let's say it takes you a couple of months, maybe more, maybe longer, inevitably you're going to reach a plateau, and at some point your performance may even start decreasing. This, of course, assuming everything you've been doing so far has been optimized for muscle growth and you've been applying the progressive overload, meaning that you're making it more challenging over time. So that's a normal thing that tends to happen. And here the approach is going to be slightly different. So what is happening there is that normally when you have a rest day, so you go train and you have a rest day, during the rest day you recover, but you don't recover completely. So you accumulate fatigue during the workout and post-workout, and then during the rest day you bring it down, but it never goes all the way down to zero. There's always going to be some lingering fatigue. So recovery is going to be like, let's say 99% or 98%. And over a very long period of time, let's say multiple weeks, several weeks, or even sometimes months, that slow build-up will reach to a point where it's going to go over your threshold and eventually your performance is going to tank. That is normal. And the logical solution here, you might be thinking about this already, is just to increase your rest time. And instead of taking 1 day rest in between some sessions, you take 2 days or something like this. Yes, this would solve the issue with recovery, but it would bring another problem. The more frequently you train, the more you're doing in the gym, the faster you grow muscle. So you want to balance those things where you don't do too much where you're not recovering properly, but at the same time you don't spend too much recovering and actually not building muscle. And normally if you did a good job and your program has been working out well for a month, at least 4 weeks or maybe like 5 weeks, this means that you did a pretty good job, you've been balancing things properly, all good. So you still have to deal with that increase in fatigue over time. And the solution here is just to take it easy for a very short period of time. So that period and what you're going to do exactly is going to be different depending on your specific situation, but normally includes taking something that people refer to as the deload week. So all across the board, you reduce your workout volume. So you reduce the number of sets, maybe the reps that you're doing, the weights that you're using. You just make sure that it's easy, it doesn't feel challenging. Okay, most of the times you want your workouts to be challenging. But once every few weeks, maybe every 4 weeks, 6 weeks, or sometimes if you don't really need the deload, if you keep on progressing consistently, maybe after several months, you're gonna have to take that deload. And a deload could be a week, it could be sometimes just a day. You could take it easy just because something happened there and you were unable to have a proper session. And sometimes it could last a whole month. So I'm not going to go into details because this is very specific to how advanced you are, what exactly you're doing, what your progression is, and so on. But the bottom line there is that inevitably, even if you do everything correct, you'll reach a point where you just need to take it light, easy for some time, usually a week, sometimes a whole month, sometimes just a couple of days, and sometimes you deload a specific exercise. Let's say your chest, your pushing movements, you hit a plateau just on pushing movements, like presses and whatnot, but your legs, your shoulders, they're fine, you can keep progressing there. So you're gonna only deload the chest exercises where you're gonna do less sets, less reps, or less weight. And that's the basic gist of it. One important thing that I wanna add here is a deload, or at least you don't want to take a deload every time something feels challenging. Unless your performance has declined and has remained this way for multiple days, more than just a week, then this is when you take the deload. If you're just having a hard session, you're like, I'm just gonna take it easy because, whatever. I mean, that's a different thing. You wanna have some pattern there and you have some consistency in terms of your performance being lower than normal, or at least getting to that point. This is when you take it easy. All right, that's it for today. 3 to 6 problems with 3 distinct solutions and some overlap there. I hope you enjoyed this video. Until next time, remember, the Emperor protects. Cheers.